What is going on, you guys? This is DerekJ Speaks, and ever since this past Sunday, with the conclusion of the Clash in Paris PLE, people have been speculating on what Becky Lynch getting involved in the CM Punk Seth Rollins storyline could potentially set up. And they all but gave it away the next night on Monday Night Raw in that segment with Becky and CM Punk, where Punk told Becky that she would regret putting her hands on him after she rained down on him with a whole bunch of slaps. And then, of course, the news and reports were breaking out all week, and this entire show on this particular night was built around one moment, and they waited until the very end of the show to deliver it. And that was the return of one AJ Lee. This is my review of WWE Friday Night SmackDown from November 5th, 2025, live from the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois, where in the closing segment of the night, Seth Rollins appeared, and he was in the crowd, and he introduced his wife, the Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch, who came out. She got in the ring. She started heeling it up on the crowd, insulting the city, insulting their sports teams, you know, the usual Becky Lynch heel stuff that she does. This brought out CM Punk, who got a monster pop when he came out. He, once again, like he did on Raw this past week, he directed his attention up at Seth Rollins, calling him a coward and saying how he's hiding behind Paul Heyman, he's hiding behind Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, and now he's hiding behind his wife. And he gave Becky an out. He said, "This does not concern you. This does not have to concern you." And he even told her, "I will give you one last chance to back off. This is between me and your coward husband. This has nothing to do with you." And of course, Becky interjected herself again. But then the crowd broke out into an AJ Lee chant, which they were doing basically all night, and they were doing it almost every single time Becky Lynch appeared on TV, and they did it when she first came out here, and she was trying to shut that down. And Punk is the one who said, "You will not shut down any chance of AJ Lee," and how he's in Chicago and he has friends and family, and how he can get any friend of his to come out here and kick Becky's ass. He can look to his sister. He can call up Bayley. He can call up Rhea Ripley. And Becky, she was kind of playing off the sister. She played off Bayley a little bit. She got a little shook at Rhea, but then at that point, she just started slapping CM Punk again and hitting him, getting all in his face again. And this led to Punk once again leaving the ring. Becky's talking shit. And then Punk says that everyone knows that he would never put his hands on a lady, but he knows someone who will. And at that point, they hit the music. We heard "Let's Light It Up," and out came AJ Lee to a thunderous reaction in Chicago. And she came out. She had on the cropped short jean shorts. She had on the crop top. She looked exactly like she did when she left WWE 10 years ago. So this woman has not aged a day. And she came out skipping like usual, skipping down the ramp, skipping around ringside, getting this huge ovation. You could not remove the smile off of CM Punk's face. It was just tattooed right on his face, this huge shit-eating grin from CM Punk. Becky sold it very well. She looked very scared and very shocked. Seth Rollins, who was in the crowd, like all the way up on one of the upper levels, they showed his face. He looked very shocked. And then they cut away from him, because then by the end of the segment, he had made his way all the way down to ringside. So that explained the lack of reaction from him. AJ skips around ring, And then she eventually gets in the ring. The music stops. The fans are chanting holy shit. And of course on USA Network, they are bleeping it. She comes face to face with Becky. Becky is the one who flinches first. She charges at AJ, and then AJ takes her down and starts raining down blows on her. Becky tried to escape. AJ pulled her back. She wound back and gave her a nice slap right in the face. And then Becky slunked out and retreated to the floor. By this point, Seth had made his way down ring level, so he was at ringside. He pulled Becky away. They retreated up the ramp, and Punk and AJ were in the ring, and AJ just leaped right into Punk's arms. They smiled at each other, they hugged, they kissed, and that's how they went off the air, and this crowd ate all of it up. My timeline on X exploded. This is a moment that a lot of people have been waiting for a very long time. AJ Lee is one of the more popular female performers in WWE history. And it's funny because you have a lot of different women over the years who have talked about this whole women's revolution thing. And it's been attributed to Stephanie McMahon. It's been attributed to Becky and the Four Horsewomen. It's been attributed to, who else? Nikki Bella, the Bella twins. They've gotten this moniker. And since Nikki has been back on TV, she's been given that kind of stuff too. And first of all, when you talk about any kind of revolution, if it's a real revolution, you don't go around having people talk about how they started it. You know, it just is. But I have always claimed that if anyone deserves to lay claim to the whole women's revolution moniker and who started it and who really got it going, look at someone like AJ Lee. You could also look at people like Paige and Emma back in the day in those early days of Black and Gold NXT. Sarah Amato, who of course was Sarah Del Rey on the Indies, real name Sarah Amato. She was one of the coaches down in NXT, and she was one of the women who was helping the women down there who would become the Four Horsewomen and a lot of other women within that developmental system. She was helping them train and really get on that level and help them be presented in a more serious light than what had originally been done with the Divas era. But AJ Lee in particular, she is a huge part of that whole women's revolution thing, because while not the most incredible in-ring performer, I'm not going to be able to rattle off a long list of some of the greatest matches of all time involving AJ Lee. She sure had her great matches. She had a great match with Caitlyn at Payback in 2013. She had a couple of great matches with Paige in 2014. I remember there being a really good match between her and Natalya on Main Event of all shows. They went like 15 or so minutes and had a great match on free TV or even Ion television back in the day when it was airing. So she's had her fair share of good matches, but outside of that, just as a personality, as a character on the show, that really started all the way back in 2012 when she was paired up with Daniel Bryan and that whole Yes Movement thing started, and he was this obnoxious heel and he was, you know, verbally abusing AJ, and then eventually broke up with her, and then she went on this whole arc of being this crazy character who you don't know which way she's gonna go. You don't know what she's gonna do week to week. She was playing mind games with Bryan and Punk and even Kane at one point. She got involved with John Cena. She was the Raw general manager. She was in segments week to week on Monday Night Raw during a time when Raw was, like 3 hours, or maybe right before it went 3 hours. But she would be in segments with men, with the top guys in the company, involved in the WWE Championship program, and would main event shows, and the shows would revolve around her. And of course, originally the longest reigning Divas champion before Nikki Bella broke that record. During that run as Divas champion, when she turned heel, we all remember that infamous episode of Raw back in 2013 when she just completely eviscerated the Divas division, People like Natalia, people like the Bella Twins and Eva Marie were at ringside while she stood up on the stage and just laced into all of them with one of the best promos in the history of the company, her own pipe bomb. Then, of course, in 2015, she left. She retired. She left WWE behind. By that point, CM Punk had already been gone for over a year. She was fed up, and I don't even need to get into all the personal backstage issues that she was forced to deal with and endure with certain individuals who no longer work there. There's specific people who don't work there anymore. Hopefully there's no other people who still work there who had any part in messing around with her own mental health and her own self-confidence and all of that stuff. So hopefully all of that is a thing of the past. Again, you can look it up. You can read her book, which is a really good book. But all these years have passed, and people have been clamoring to see AJ Lee come back. Once CM Punk returned to the company in 2023, people have been begging to see AJ come back. All these women's Royal Rumble matches have come and gone, and people were hoping to see AJ Lee all the way up until the number 30 entrant in these women's Rumble matches. People were hoping AJ would come out. The Evolution PLE that just took place a few months ago, people were hoping for an AJ appearance. And as each of these shows went by, it became less and less likely that we were ever going to see AJ back. And then this segment, this whole angle popped up out of nowhere. We see Becky Lynch getting involved in the main event of Clash in Paris, helping Seth Rollins retain her championship. And did so at the expense of CM Punk, which logically led to the fans speculating that this is the time for it to happen. And then, of course, Fightful and Dave Meltzer and all of them, they confirmed the report later in the week that it was official, but we all knew it was official. After what happened at the PLE, after what happened on Raw, we knew this is what was going to come up. And it would have been a huge mistake if they went with Bayley or they went with Rhea Ripley. As popular as Rhea is, as many people who like Bayley, this had to be AJ Lee in this spot, because you cannot do an angle like that. You cannot have Punk and Becky feeding off of the chants from the crowd and playing into it and using these specific keywords and trigger words basically, and try to pull a swerve out and do something else. And even on this show, they couldn't have afforded to do anything else, try to play with the crowd or mess with the crowd. You just got to give the people what they want. Those people were chanting that woman's name from the very beginning of the show. They were chanting it all night. Like I said, every time Becky appeared on the camera, she was drowned with AJ Lee chants. These people came to this arena even more so than CM Punk, who got a huge ovation when he came out. They gave an even bigger one for AJ, because these people came to see her and they were rewarded kindly, and they got a awesome closing segment. I don't know what they do with AJ. Obviously the direction is a mixed tag team match. That is my assumption. They're going to want to load up that Wrestlepalooza card. We already have what is seemingly the main event of that show announced with John Cena and Brock Lesnar. We'll get to that momentarily, but you know, it's their first show on ESPN. It's a big show. Obviously, I mean, it's no longer going head-to-head with AEW All Out after Tony Khan announced that All Out is going to air at 3 p.m. So All Out will get a head start over Wrestlepalooza. No longer a head-to-head competition, but that's not terrible. That was a logical move for Tony Khan. So good on him for doing that. But this show is being hyped up big time, and a big attraction for that show would be CM Punk and AJ Lee teaming up to take on Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. It's not only a way to prolong this Seth Punk feud, which will have some kind of conclusion at some point, but now it's a way to spice things up a little bit. It's not just Punk and Rollins coming out and brawling. It's not just Rollins hitting Punk with a stomp, which I've lost count of how many times that has happened this year. It's something different. You introduce Becky Lynch into it, who is a great personality, and already in these two segments that she has had with CM Punk in the ring this week, they have been far more entertaining than anything that Seth Rollins has done on TV in months. So good on her for that. She's already injecting new life into this whole equation here. And now we have AJ back. She came out here, she got the big pop, she attacked Becky, she got physical. Now we build up to her speaking. Will that happen this upcoming Monday night on Raw? Potentially. I don't see why it wouldn't. I don't know. I haven't checked the social media page yet. Maybe they have already announced that AJ is going to appear on Raw. Maybe they'll announce that within the next coming days. But we got to get a microphone in her hand to sell this mixed tag team match. And outside of that, beyond that, could we see her appear more often? Sure. Just because they do a mixed tag team match doesn't mean it can't break off into a singles match between AJ and Becky. Becky is the Women's Intercontinental Champion. What if in that mixed tag team match, Punk and AJ win with AJ pinning or making Becky tap out? And that can set up easy to do AJ and Becky for the championship at a future show. Now that AJ's back, maybe next year we will see her in the Women's Rumble. Will we see her in a match at WrestleMania? Like, the options are endless here, but we don't know for sure. What I do know is that we are getting some kind of match involving these four at WrestlePalooza, which should be a lot of fun. And I don't know how they handle AJ going forward. Maybe this is just a one-off. Maybe she's here for the big pop. She does this match and she quietly disappears into the sunset, and maybe she'll be back for an occasional appearance in the Rumble or a Hall of Fame induction, or we never see her again. Who knows what the future is beyond this point. But just focusing on this night, on this moment, on this show, this was amazing. This was a great moment. It was great to see AJ back. Again, she looked amazing. The crowd went absolutely nuts. Becky and Seth, they did their part. They sold it very well, especially Becky. And Punk just looked like a proud husband, as one would expect. So, hats off to everyone. This was well done. This was pulled off very well. And while AJ was definitely the woman of the hour for this show, the man of the hour was at the beginning, with John Cena making not only his final televised appearance in Chicago, but it was confirmed that this was John Cena's final appearance on SmackDown. And he came out in front of Chicago. Man, I've been watching this show for a very long time, and I have watched long enough to remember if John Cena would come out on a show in Chicago, he was going to get drowned out with boos. Let's not forget John Cena and CM Punk at Money in the Bank in 2011, when Cena made his entrance. The first riff of his theme song played, and the boos just immediately drowned out the rest of his song. Fast forward all these years later, now John Cena's on his retirement tour. He's being billed as the greatest of all time. He comes out here in Chicago and gets nothing but praise and cheers from the Chicago faithful. To the point that when Cena was interrupted by new United States champion Sami Zayn, this traditionally beloved babyface, Sami was the one met with boos. He came out, he got in the ring, he went face to face with Cena, and he's showing respect towards Cena, but he's getting booed by the crowd. They're booing him out of the building here. But Sami wanted to talk to Cena because now that he's the champion, he wanted to reintroduce the open challenge gimmick for the United States Championship that John Cena himself started 10 years ago. And also 10 years ago, in one of those open challenge matches, Sami Zayn debuted from NXT and answered the challenge, tore his rotator cuff while he was just swinging at the air in celebratory fashion, and he lost to John Cena. Now here on this show, Cena's last night on SmackDown, last night in Chicago, Sami Zayn granted him a U.S. Championship match right at the start of the show, and they proceeded to have a very good match. He got interrupted by a few commercial breaks. I wish they had done what they do sometimes when they have like the first half hour or first hour of the show commercial free. I wish they did that, because this match got interrupted by 2 or 3 commercial breaks, and it kind of took the energy down. Like it broke up the momentum of the match a little bit. But despite that, they were still having a really good match. Cena, he hit a couple of attitude adjustments that Sami Zayn kicked out of. Sami hit a Helluva kick that Cena kicked out of. And then Cena also, much like in his match with Logan Paul at Clash in Paris, started busting out some finishing moves of some of his past rivals. He hit a pop-up powerbomb on Sami, a la Kevin Owens. He paid homage to Kurt Angle by hitting an angle slam. He even hit a go to sleep on Sami. And of course, Sami kicked out of that. Then the fans started to chant RKO because they wanted to see that. And as Cena went for it, Sami was able to slip out of it. But then we build to the moment where Cena gets Sami up top on the middle turnbuckle, and he hits a avalanche attitude adjustment. Both men are down. And I knew, I knew even before this match started, what I wanted to see was John Cena and Sami Zayn on John Cena's last night on SmackDown. Go out there, have a really good match with Sami, have a fun back and forth, give the fans something to cheer for and go crazy for. And Sami puts him down. Cena does the honors. Sami wins. The two shake hands. Obviously, the fans would have booed because they were just all pro Cena here. But Sami gets the win. He bows out. He leaves. And John Cena is left to a standing ovation from the crowd. And he bows. And that's it. That's what I wanted. And of course, when it comes to WWE, sometimes you can't always get what you want. We got what we wanted at the end of the show with AJ, but here we did not, at least I didn't get what I wanted. Instead, I got what I was hoping wouldn't happen, which is after the Avalanche AA, both men are down and they hit Brock Lesnar's music, and out comes Brock Lesnar, who pulls out the referee to the floor, gets in the ring, lays out Sami Zayn with an F5, and then lays out John Cena with 2 F5s. And then after Brock does that, he's met with boos, he leaves, they go to commercial, they come back, they replay it, and then they show backstage Brock talking into the camera, telling John Cena that he'll see him at WrestlePalooza. And then he called him a bitch, and then they flashed the graphic that is now official for WrestlePalooza, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. When this WrestlePalooza event was just made out of thin air a few weeks ago, it was highly rumored that the match between Brock Lesnar and John Cena that they set up at the end of SummerSlam at the beginning of August and have not really done anything to follow up on, it was reported that that match would happen on the at one point was the unnamed September 20th show, just the WWE show that was going to go up against All Out. And then, of course, they gave the WrestlePalooza name, paying homage to ECW as one more big ol' FU to Tony Khan, well-known ECW mark. But yeah, here we go. So after a great match between John Cena and Cody at SummerSlam, after another great match with John Cena and Logan Paul, and what was really becoming a great match with Sami Zayn on this show, Cena now has to get in the ring with Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. And I already went over this in my Night 2 SummerSlam review. I'm not going to get too deep into it now. I have no interest in seeing Brock Lesnar back on my television. I really was not clamoring to see Brock back to face John Cena or for him to be back, period. I have no appetite for Brock Lesnar. The real life stuff, the Janelle Grant stuff, that's there. That's a big part of it. But honestly, just Brock Lesnar in 2025 does nothing to excite me. There's nothing like seeing him come out. I groaned because I expected it and I was still disappointed. But I don't have any excitement for Brock Lesnar anymore as a character on TV. He adds, in my eyes, no real value. Maybe with this match announcement, they'll move more tickets. They'll have more eyeballs on WrestlePalooza. I'm sure there is value in him for WWE in that regard, but just for me personally speaking, I see no real value in him as an on-screen personality. And of all the options for John Cena to wrestle in his farewell tour, Brock Lesnar was nowhere on my list of people who I wanted to see him in the ring with. But we're going to get it, and it's going to be at WrestlePalooza, and I'll be there to watch it. With All Out and WrestlePalooza on the same day, I am still planning on watching both shows. Now I don't have to worry about watching them back at the same time, and instead I get to watch them back to back with some slight overlap, but that'll be fun. And I'm still, as of this moment, planning on reviewing both shows in one giant double review video. So watch out for that on the night of September 20th or the early morning of September 21st. But this show was bookended by those big things: the John Cena appearance and the Brock Lesnar return, and of course the AJ return at the end. In the middle, there wasn't all that much. In the middle was what the current state of SmackDown is, which wasn't all that exciting. We had a match with Damian Priest and Aleister Black. Black got the cheap win. That feud continues. Michin lost to Julia, who defended her U.S. championship. At least we got to see Julia on TV, because we definitely don't most other weeks. So at least we saw her now. And they aired a bunch of video packages to hype the show for next week, which will include a match between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, where I suspect Cody Rhodes may appear and set up a Cody Rhodes-Drew McIntyre championship match for WrestlePalooza. We'll get Tiffany versus Jade for the women's championship. I'm predicting a victory for Jade Cargill in that match there. I don't know if they'll pull the trigger on a heel turn, but I do think that Jade is going to get the win. And they announced that Brock Lesnar is going to appear on the show. And of course, John Cena will not. I don't know if there's any upcoming Raw shows that he's announced for. I feel like there is. Maybe not this upcoming Raw, but maybe the next week's, like the week of WrestlePalooza. I think that episode of Raw, Cena's going to be there. And Brock's going to be on the show next week and the week after that. So we'll see if they actually have Brock Lesnar cut a promo and explain why he is attacking John Cena, or if they go the route that they went with that several month-long feud with Cody Rhodes a few years ago, where there was absolutely no explanation given as to what Brock's beef was with Cody. I expected it to be more of the latter than the former, but we'll see. If Brock's going to be on the show 2 weeks in a row, and on those 2 weeks John Cena's not going to be there, you got to imagine Brock's going to do something. I doubt it'll be wrestling, so what he does, I don't know. But that does it for this show. I only wanted to come on here to talk about the AJ Lee return. I knew I was going to do a video. I knew I was going to do a review of this show because of the AJ Lee return. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to give respect to AJ and how I felt about her career and how I felt about her returning here and my expectations for her return. And again, the segment was done perfectly well. That was easily the highlight of the show. That's what this entire show was built around. Almost nothing else on the show mattered except for that moment, that pop once her music hit. So for that, mission accomplished. But that is it for me. And now the next time you guys hear from me will very likely be on that big weekend of All Out and WrestlePalooza. So lots of big things. We'll see how the rest of that card shapes up. We'll see how the build up to this mixed tag team match goes. We'll see how they try to bring some excitement to a John Cena Brock Lesnar match in 2025. All that stuff in these coming weeks. I'll be tuned in, mostly, sorta, kinda. But thanks for checking me out, guys. If you like what you see, like what you hear, hit that like button, subscribe, and follow on X/Twitter at DerekJ Speaks. Till next time, take care.